Because if you haven't practiced being under stress in an emergency, chances are, well, you won't know what you need to do.
From the DJR Empowerment Group headquarters, this is the Readiness Report. Your fast, no-nonsense brief on the threats, trends, and tactics that keep you and your family safe. Here's your host, Kenny DuBose Jr.
Hello and welcome to the Readiness Report. Last week, we defined what it means to be an everyday defender. That wasn't a slogan. It was a line in the sand. It was a determination. Because once you make that decision, everything changes. How you think, how you move, and how you evaluate risk. Today, we're talking about what must happen before pressure ever arrives. Readiness is not something you improvise in the moment. It's a pre-decision. And if that decision hasn't been made ahead of time, the moment will make it for you. But before we get into that, let's talk about that gear that you just bought, the gear that someone recommended to you. And it cost you a lot of money because they said it's the best that you can get, right? That gear does not create readiness. Let's be clear about that. Your gear is neutral. Your gear does nothing for you if you don't get ready with it, if you don't create the mindset on how to use it, how to draw your gun from a holster or whatever gear that you bought. If it doesn't fall in line with the identity and the training that drives your behavior, it will do you no good. You can't have an attitude of, I hope I'm ready, just from buying the gear. You have to use it. You have to become responsible. You have to be able to say to yourself, I've practiced enough. I think I'm responsible and I'm ready. That's usually backed up by your values. What values that lead to your standards, that lead to the good decisions, right? Because you may not be that one that uses lethal form of self-defense or protection. And that's okay. That's who you are. That's what your values are. But you have to practice, and those standards that you've come up with yourself, you have to practice or you won't get to the decision-making phase. Because you haven't decided, you haven't thought about what those decisions might be. At any given time, you may be forced to protect yourself. You may be forced to protect the ones you love. And if you haven't in your mind already predetermined what those decisions are, you're never going to rise to that occasion. You're always going to fall to your conditioning. And I know it's cliche, trust me, I know it. Right? Saying it, or I'm like, oh, it's a cliche, but it's so true. If you haven't practiced it, if you haven't seen it in your mind, you're never going to do it. Let me make it more clear for you. If you decide you want to be a boxer and you've never stepped in a boxing ring, how do you expect to win a boxing match? It's the same with protecting yourself. If you've never seen yourself do it, if you've never practiced do it, a lot of times you're not going to be able to do it. So you have to get your mindset. You can't have that attitude of, oh, I'll handle it if it happens. That's not a plan. That's overconfidence at best. Right? You've left it up to, oh, I'll be able to handle it. You know, I've been to the range. I've shot a piece of paper at 15 yards and I have accuracy. I can hit the target within a chosen, 9-inch circle. That's fine if whoever you have to defend yourself is going to stand in one place and let you use your tool. That's overconfidence. Right? And you might say, well, how do I get the practice, right? How do I do it? Well, you have to search it out. You have to find the training in your area. Or how about this? Go outside your area to find where that training is, right? There's trainings all over the country, all over the world that you can go to. Because if you haven't practiced being under stress in an emergency, chances are, well, you won't know what you need to do, right? Stress compresses thinking. Right? Stress makes time shorten, right? If you haven't decided what you can do and what you can't do before that stress ever hits, chances are you're going to delay, and that delay is going to equal danger. It takes 3 to 5 seconds for an able-bodied person to close a distance of 21 feet. And I know you've probably heard it before. They say you're gonna have to defend yourself usually within 21 feet, 7 yards. And that's sometimes true. A lot of times it's gonna be closer than that. But if you delay any little bit, you could be in danger. Great or grave bodily harm or even death. And I hope that doesn't happen to you. So you have to make the decision, because your indecision is a decision. If you haven't decided to get what you need, you've made the decision not to, right? Most people overestimate their capability under pressure. Most people do, right? So what replaces that false plan? Mental habits, awareness, avoidance, right? Positioning and noticing escape options, recognizing when something may not be right. Are you living your life aware of the things that go around you? Or are you like the people that have their earphones in, they're just rocking out to their music? Are you at the gym with both earphones in because you feel, oh, it's safe at the gym? Well, crazy people or people that want to do bad things go to gyms too, right? So you need to be aware of what's going on. Or even if it's not something that somebody wants to do something wrong, what if somebody gets hurt in the gym? What if a weight falls on somebody and you're so close that you could help them, but you got your earphones in, you're not paying attention, and that person really gets hurt? Are you aware of your surroundings? Have you raised your awareness to a point of discipline, right? And in the case of when things go wrong and somebody wants to hurt you, how about avoiding a violent situation? Because avoidance is not cowardice, it's strength. It's being able to lay your ego down and lay your attitudes down and be able to go home at the end of the day and focus on that and not be that person that has to go, oh, you talking to me? Oh, I know that you didn't talk to me. What'd you say? That's ego, guys. That's attitude, ladies. Put that to the side. Avoid the violent encounter, right? Because the only guaranteed way to survive is to avoid a violent encounter. And unfortunately, the social media that you're watching usually doesn't teach you how to avoid. It teaches you how to defend. You can find some good training out there, but there's few and far between that teach you how to avoid, conflict avoidance, right? So you have to go to something local, something where you are, right? Or call and find out where the training is so you can learn how to avoid a violent encounter. If you're in my area, in Virginia, in the Tidewater area, come see us. We have a conflict avoidance class, a 2-hour class where we teach you how to avoid violence encounters, because it's the only guaranteed way that you survive a violent encounter is to avoid it altogether. But let's be clear, all of this only matters because stress changes things, right? We're talking about getting your mindset and your preparedness right, because when stress comes up, it's going to change things. Stress narrows your mind. Adrenaline shrinks your options. But if you've conditioned your mind, it expands your choices because you've already decided. It's like when you're driving, right? You're driving and a car stops in front of you. You instinctively hit your brake. But if you're a new driver, you haven't built that condition yet, you might delay and you might hit that car, right? In times when things happen, you get that tunnel vision, auditory exclusion. There's been plenty of times where people say, oh man, I didn't hear that, or I didn't see that. In that moment, they didn't. Everything disappeared. We hope it doesn't disappear to the point of fainting, where you just totally black out. We hope that doesn't happen. There's time distortion. All of these things could happen, but if you've conditioned your mind and you've imagined what you can do in the time of stress, a lot of the times that conditioning will overcome that shrinking of your options and that tunnel vision, auditory, and so on and so forth, right? So what do you do? What do you actually do with all of this? What do you do? What are your next action steps? Here's one thing I want you to do, right? Well, actually two. I want you to pay attention when you go out today, when you go to different places. I want you to imagine every room as if you had an emergency, right? If something happened, pay attention to identify your exits. See when something doesn't look right. If something doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, it might not be right. And it might not have any problem, right? But at least you've already decided. When I used to work security and I used to bounce at clubs, I would stand around most of the night, never have a problem. But I guarantee you, I'm actually picking out people that if they become a problem, I'm already thinking about how to handle that problem. I want you to do that going forward today. Figure it out. And then also this week, reinforce your good habits, right? On a daily repetition. So if you do something daily, right? You might do your drills. You might do your grip drills or your dry fire drills, right? If you do it for 5 minutes, how about doing it for 10 minutes? If you do it for 10 minutes, how about doing it for 15? Reinforce those good habits with daily repetition more often. And if there's something you've gotten good at, how about picking something that you're not so good at and try that and make that a daily habit of to get daily repetition in so you can increase that. If you want a clear framework for building the mental foundation required to be the best everyday defender you can be, the Empowerment Academy walks you through it step by step. Practical, repeated habits that condition your thinking before pressure ever tests it. Remember who you decided to be. Remember who you are. Last week you made that determination. How about reinforce that this week? Fundamentals matter. Mindset and habits are not assumed, they're built. They're structured, they're repeated, and they're reinforced. Remember, readiness starts in the mind long before it shows up in your hands. Stay safe, stay prepared, stay empowered. We'll see you next week.